sing myself and celebrate myself. And what I assume, you shall assume. For every atom belonging to me as well belongs to you. I loaf, observing a spear of summer grass. My tongue, every atom of my being, formed from this soil, this air. Let's let some air in. Good. Formed from this soil, this air. Born here of parents. Born here of parents the same, and their parents the same. I now, 37 years old, begin, hoping to cease not until death. Creeds and schools in abeyance, retiring back a while. Sufficed it what they are, but not forgotten. I harbor for good or bad. I permit to speak at every hazard. Nature, unchecked, with original energy. Well, I get carried away with my grass. I heard some of the youth did that too, but in a different way. Well, as you know, I live in Camden, not too far from the river. And I do wish our mayor had some of this original energy that I'm talking about. It won't be long before he has his men putting up no swimming signs all along the Delaware. Well, he's afraid that the high and mighty aristocrats from Philadelphia will be coming to Camden and see the boys skinny dipping in the river. Heaven forbid. So, the no swimming signs go up every May. Not that it does that much good. I think the more skinny dipping, the better. The mayor's up for election in November. I've written a platform for him, but I don't think he'll accept it. Well, if he doesn't, I'll vote for the other guy. But this was my idea for his platform. Mayor, this is what you should do. Love the earth, the sun, and the animals. Despise riches. Give alms to everyone who asks. Stand up for the stupid and crazy. Devote your income and labor to others. Hate tyrants. Argue not concerning God. And have patience and indulgence toward all people. Take off your hat to nothing known or unknown, or to any man or number of men. Go freely with powerful individuals, with the young, and with the mothers of families. And read these leaves every season of every year of your life. Re-examine everything you've been told in school, in church, or in any book. Dismiss whatever insults your own soul, and your very flesh shall become a great poem. Not only in its words, but between the lashes of your eyes, in your face, in every motion and joint of your body. One great, beautiful that platform? Well, I first came to Camden, I believe it was, oh, how did you know? Oh, thanks. I first came to Camden May 20th, 1873. My brother George had been living in Camden for a while. My mother was terribly sick. I came up from Washington where I was working. I was not in the best of health either. I got to Philadelphia. I took the ferry boat across from Camden. It reminded me of my days in Brooklyn, crossing the Brooklyn ferry. Flood tide below me. I see you face to face. Clouds to the west. Sun there half an hour high. I see you also face to face. Crowds of men and women in their curious costumes. I see you also face to face. On the ferry, the hundreds and hundreds that cross, returning home. You are more curious to me than you might suppose. And you, that shall cross from shore to shore, years hence, are more to me, and more in my meditations than you might suppose. The glories that were strung like beads on my smallest walk in the city, or over the river, current rushing with me, swimming far away. The others who are to come after me, the life, love, laughter of others. Others will enter the ferry and cross from shore to shore. Others will see the run of the flood tide, the heights of Brooklyn to the south and east, the shipping of Manhattan to the north and west. Others will see the islands, large and small. 50 years hence, others will see them. And 100 and more years hence, others will see them. Sun there half an hour. Others will enjoy the pouring in of the flood tide and the drawing back to the sea of the ebb tide. Thank you. Thank you. You know, I wrote once, it takes, to have great poets, it takes great audiences. So, here's to you. I got to my mother's house, or my brother's house. My mother was in bed, of course. And she held on for 3 days. After she passed away, I sat in the chair next to her bed, pounding my cane into the floor. She was the dearest thing. That was the saddest day of my life. Well, George, he could tell I wasn't in such good shape, and he asked if I wanted to stay in Camden. And I said yes. So as I said, I took a leave of absence from my job in Washington. Well, it's probably better I did, because they found leaves of grass. The secretary Stanton found leaves of grass in one of my drawers. Of course, he read it. He said, any author of this book is not going to work in my department. But I wasn't so upset that he didn't like leaves of grass. I was just upset that he went through my drawers. Oh, that didn't sound quite right, did it? Well, anyway, there I was in Camden. I could say I came to Camden by accident, but I was never sorry to be left over in Camden. Camden has brought me many blessed returns. George, he had a nice house, a big house on Stevens Street, but he wanted an even bigger house. He was a pipe man, and he worked on the pipes under the city of Camden, so he made pretty good money. He wanted to move out of the city to Burlington, which was still along the river, but I didn't want to leave Camden. I mean, even if I wasn't traveling, I could see the ferry go across the river. I could see the horse-drawn carriages. I could see the trains. I knew people were traveling. I felt like a part of me was going with them. I didn't want to be off in Burlington. So I had to find my own little shanty. And I did, on Mickle Street, 328 Mickle. $17.50 it cost me. $1,750. So, luckily, well, I had packing crates for furniture. Luckily, as I was selling my book door to door, I met Mrs. Davis. Now, Mrs. Davis had some nice furniture. So, and the little cakes and all she served me were very delicious. So I decided to strike up a bargain if I could, because her house was not that great. So I suggested she come and live at my house, strictly as a cook and housekeeper, and she would do the cooking and bring her lovely furniture. And I guess I would pay her a salary. That was the least I could do. So anyway, it all worked out, and I stayed in Camden. Then I got my grave. You know, I had to prepare for the end, so I bought a little grave site out at Harley Cemetery. Well, I modeled the tomb after a William Blake drawing, and by the time everything was finished, it was going to cost $4,500. I said my house only costs $1,750. The guy said, "Oh, it's much more expensive to die than something." So there I was. I had some generous friends, though. Well, my brother George, he was an engineer, but he was a brave man too. He did serve the Union Army. I, of course, was too old. But Mother and I, when she was still alive, we were up in Brooklyn, and we would check the papers every day, the list of wounded. And when we saw the name George Washington Whitmore, I knew it was my brother. A mistake had been made. I made haste to go down to find him in Washington in the hospitals. Wouldn't you know, in Philadelphia I had my pocket picked. If you pass through Philadelphia, hold on to your wallets. I made it to Washington, but I was penniless. Luckily, after 3 days of searching the hospitals, I was starving and no place to stay. I met an old friend. He put me up for the night. He found out that George, my brother, was stationed in Virginia. The next day I headed to Virginia. George, I found, thank God, just a wound on the cheek. And he took a lot of ribbing from the other soldiers about which cheek he was wounded. But others were not so lucky. So I went into the hospitals and started to visit the men. I'd bring them little candies or fruit. I'd write letters home for them. I'd do what I could with their bandages and wounds. And some, I even held their hand after they passed on. I kept doing it until I left George and headed for Washington. In Washington, I knew I had to stay and continue the nursing that I had done in Virginia. I became an official volunteer nurse, and I took a small job in the government that would allow me to do that. So, I'll never forget the face. There was three men with blankets over them. I lifted the face of one, a youngster, peach fuzz on his cheeks. And the next, a grizzled man, white hair, old, could have been a grandfather. And the third, beautiful young man, could have been the face of Christ himself. A child said, "What is the grass?" fetching it to me with full hands. How could I answer the child? I do not know what it is any more than he. Perhaps it is the flag of my disposition, out of hopeful green stuff woven. Or I guess it is a handkerchief of the Lord, a scented gift, a remembrancer, designedly dropped, bearing the owner's name some ways in the corner, so that we may stop and remark whose. Or I guess the grass itself is a child, the produced babe of the vegetation, sprouting alike in broad zones and narrow, growing among black folk as among white. Canuck, Tuckahoe, Congressman, Cuff, I give them the same and receive them the same. But now, the grass seems to be the beautiful uncut hair of graves. What has become of the young and old men? What has become of the women and children? They are alive and well somewhere. The smallest sprout shows there is no death. And if ever there was, it only led forward into life and did not wait at the end to arrest him. All moves upward and outward. Nothing collapses. To die is different than anyone supposes, and lucky. Does anyone suppose it's lucky to be born? It is just as lucky to die. And I know it. I know it. I know it. Oh, the spotted hawk swoops by, complains of my gab and my loitering. I too am not a bit tame. I too am untranslatable. I sound my barbaric yaw. I need help with that. I'm going to say that again. I'm all going to sound our barbaric yaw. Ready? Listen, this is a library. You're always told to be quiet in the library. This is your jam. Okay? Here we go. I sound my barbaric yaw over the rooftops of West Deptford. If you want me again, look for me under your boot soles. You'll not know who I am or what I mean, but I shall be good health to you nonetheless, and filter and fiber your blood. Failing to fetch me at first, keep encouraged. For I stop. Missing me one place, search another. For I stop somewhere, waiting for you.